Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good morning. Consideration of agenda items. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Hearing none, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are to our COVID-19 update. I'm under the impression that Megan is stuck in traffic. I'm not seeing Kevin yet this morning either. Is he coming?
Kevin does not have an update for today.
Okay. Here's Megan, but we'll let her settle in. But Sheila, do you want to give yours? Do you
Sure.
have anything to go?
I don't have a very long update, just to let the public know that masks are required in the McLeod County Courthouse and all other courthouses throughout the state now.
Okay.
So to be sure that if you are attending the courthouse in the public areas, that you do bring one with you.
Yeah, very good.
And I would just note that that is not a decision of anybody other than the Supreme Court Chief Justice.
Very good. Megan, we're ready for you. I'm sorry to welcome.
Good to be here with you. Thanks for your patience with me this morning. I hit a little bit of a squall on the way in, so. I was just going to share a little information from the public health perspective about where we're at with COVID. And we had talked about at the last meeting possibly coming back with some additional statistics. I know there had been a question by Commissioner Kruger about the hospitalization rate and all of these things. We unfortunately migrated to a new tracking system, case tracking system over the weekend, so we're not able to produce data reports until we're completely migrated. So we'll hopefully have those for you by the next meeting. I do have three, just kind of general issues I wanted to bring before you today in terms of what we're seeing with COVID locally here. One is, I had mentioned at our last meeting that we would likely hit our 100th case here in McLeod County before that week was out, and we did in fact do that. We hit our 100th case on July 13th. So, we hear the results sometimes retroactively, but that was the specimen collection date of the 100th case. We are now, as of the end of business yesterday, up to 111 cases. So that's one thing. The second thing is just to let you know that we are continuing to see nationally, as well as in McLeod County here, a much higher rate of positives among our young population, our 20 to 29 age group. Both nationally and locally here, that is where we are seeing our highest increase in positive cases. So we think the theory is, with bars and restaurants reopening and people socializing more, that we are seeing an increase for that reason. So just want to raise awareness among the younger age group.
What age range was that?
20 to 29-year-olds.
Thank you.
Yes. I know when I was that age, it's a long time ago now, but when I was that age, I tended to think of myself as invincible. And, the virus does not discriminate. So just hoping that those age groups will perhaps take some more precautions to protect themselves. And finally, the third piece of data I guess I wanted to share with you today is we continue to struggle with higher rates of infection among our Latino residents. And it's a point of frustration for us in public health because we never want to see disparities like that. And so we're always looking at, what can we be doing as an agency to try and reach out to the community better to prevent infection. We know there are existing health disparities in that community, but what we are seeing is our Hispanic residents are about 6.5% of our population as a county, but they make up 26.5% of positive COVID tests. So we clearly, and we're working with MMS as well, with our 3-county community health organization to try and figure out what can we be doing in terms of outreach and better service to our Spanish-speaking community to try and prevent such a high rate of infection going forward. So in light of our system transition, those are the 3 pieces of data I have for you today, and hopefully we'll be able to mine some additional data for you for the next meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
How much does the migrant help affect that number? I mean, obviously, we have a population of X, but there's a lot of Hispanics up here now working both in Seneca and for summer jobs. So though I'm sure those numbers play into that percentage. Is that right?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, we don't really have a way to distinguish.
It's more of a comment than, I mean, we obviously
Yeah.
have, I know the concerns earlier with some of the workers coming up. So, I mean, we kind of knew the numbers of that specific population were going to grow.
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioner, I can just comment on the Seneca situation specifically. We have not seen an outbreak in that population at
That's good.
all.
That's
And
good.
we know that they're bringing 200 to 300 people in now just this week, additional, plus for the corn pack. And so we may now see that happen, but we really haven't at least seen it again in that seasonal worker population. So I suspect it's more our permanent residents.
But there was a lot of work done on the front end of that, too.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, yes.
Mr. Chair, Megan, I just want to note that Megan and Lori and other people on the team at Health and Human Services did a very good job working with Seneca, but Seneca did a very good job as well, and Megan was filling me in on that, their ongoing efforts. So we're very happy that they were willing to work with our Health and Human Services Department along with the City of Glencoe and in order to prepare for that increase of the migrant workers coming into the city.
Ron, did you have a question?
Thank you.
So, Megan,
Yes.
going back to the 20 to 29-year-old infection rate, do we have a feeling, are they having serious symptoms, or are they just having mild symptoms? And the other question is, most testing that is done now, is it because people are symptomatic that they go in for testing, or is anybody eligible to go in and get tested?
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioner, most of the testing that's going on in our community right now is only for symptomatic people. We did have a few of our providers who at one point had opened up to testing asymptomatic people, but now we're in a situation again with the outbreaks in the southern United States where a lot of the testing capacity is being taken up by other parts of the nation. And so they've had to pull back a little bit in terms of how broadly they can offer the testing. That was your second question. Now I lost your first question in there somewhere.
I
Oh,
guess
the
the
severity.
seriousness of the symptoms.
Yes. Well, this is the kicker with this virus, isn't it? We can, even in that 20 to 29-year-old age group, we can see very, very serious cases. Particularly if people have pre-existing conditions that we know are high risk for COVID. We can also see mild illness or completely asymptomatic. So it really runs the gamut, even in that younger age group.
Okay. If I may, one more question. At the last board meeting, we talked about checking the senior living facilities,
Yes.
testing staff and residents. How's that going?
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioner, we have finished one of our long-term care facilities, and in the process, if you recall, we talked about that they would each be doing 3 rounds of testing. So day 1, day 7, and day 14, and they would keep testing, see if I can say this correctly, they would continue testing all the negatives to assess whether they continued to have negative test results. The National Guard itself has now kind of revised, I guess I'll say, the testing procedures, so they will not be necessarily doing 3 rounds of testing. For many facilities, it's just going to be 1. So for example, the facility we were helping out this last couple weeks over at Woodstone, they are just going to have to only do 2 rounds of testing because their tests continue to come up negative. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit of an abbreviated process, and I'm sure a number of our facilities are really happy about that, but certainly our first experience with it was very positive, working with the National Guard with the facility, and we had a very good result with all these negative test results. So it's going very smoothly.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Megan, dealing with some of the minority populations, as we call them anyway, is this an education thing that we can be seemingly so successful with what's going on at Seneca, but in the general population not as successful. Is there something we can do for maybe an education process to get more information to those people, or just looking for a way to help solve some of those issues?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, that is an excellent question, and I wish I knew the answer, and those are exactly the kinds of questions we've been asking ourselves internally. What is driving this? Is it an education issue? Is it sort of what we would call health literacy, necessarily knowing how to really use our healthcare system here locally? We suspect it's just kind of it's demonstrating that there were kind of health disparities there all along, that have made that population maybe more vulnerable to COVID. We've been having a lot of these, as I said, discussions internally to try and kind of crack this nut, figure out what we could be doing differently, and I'm sad to say we don't really have an answer yet. One model that I think we are looking at, that we've learned about through our MMS partners, and I think it was talked about at the last either board or finance committee meeting, is could the use of these community health workers be of any assistance? So, for example, in Sibley County, they have a bilingual, bicultural, what's called a community health worker that actually goes into these Hispanic communities and works directly with them and helps do some kind of, I guess I'd say, cultural translation to help people access the healthcare system better. So we have some anecdotal evidence that could be helpful, but we don't really have a solution at this point. We'd be interested to talk with you, offline to see if you have any ideas of things we could try. We translate absolutely everything, so having access to information is not necessarily, the issue. Thanks for your question, though.
All right, thanks, Megan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move on the agenda. Some jail items to address. Will, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
I'm here to seek approval for a memorandum of understanding agreement with Midwest Monitoring and Surveillance to provide 2 automated breathalyzer kiosks. These kiosks are going to take the place of staff currently having to perform handheld breath tests. These are people that are released from courts with conditions. They need to prove their sobriety. They come to the jail or Hutchinson Police Department twice a day, roughly 12 hours apart, to provide a PBT or a breath test to make sure they're sober. So this kiosk is going to take the place of that. It's completely automated. It no longer is going to involve any of jail staff or other officer staff to provide the test. There's no cost to us. It's just mounted on the wall. They come in, they answer their questions, type in the PIN number below, and they're out 100% serviced by the company here. They'll calibrate it, provide all the supplies. The people doing the test pay $3 a test. That's how they make their money. So there's no budget impact for me. It's going to be nice for the jail staff, like I said, to free them up. Also, a second kiosk will be installed in Hutch Police Department. It'll be nice there, so their officers don't have to come off the street to provide the test as well. So they should be installed. The one in jail is actually on the wall already, and Hutch's should be installed today.
Can I vote more than once on this?
No, Mr. Chair, you're limited to 1 vote.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Will, with this testing, what happens if the test candidate blows in violation of the consumption? What happens then?
So they'll get one retest. We'll issue them a retest where they blow again. If they're still positive, then staff, jail staff, or an officer will provide probably that manual test. And if they're in violation, depending on what the court order says, they could be taken into custody and held before they see the judge.
Okay, but how will staff know if the person
There's a website,
instantaneous?
they get automatic alerts.
Okay.
So, because for jail, we have to let them in one door to take the test, so we know, so we can go onto that website and see in real time them blowing on the test.
Okay, great, thank you.
And if they aren't taken into custody at that time, then a report would likely go to Kim, correct?
Yes.
And then Kim would inform the prosecutor's office, and we have the right to request a warrant for violations of conditions of release.
Thank you.
And the typical person that is taking the alcohol tests probably has either a very, very high test reading over a 2.0 on a first offense or multiple prior offenses.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the,
Motion by Commissioner Kruger, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Szymanski. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Will.
Do we need to do a roll call to make sure you only voted once?
I probably shouldn't have made that
This,
joke.
this does save an
A
awful
ton
lot.
of time, and that's why I
It's-
said that.
It saves a lot of personnel time, but it also saves the contact.
Yeah.
So that the officers aren't having contact with these folks.
And I
and testing.
apologize for making that joke, but it's a huge deal.
It is.
Yep. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mike, is there a number, I mean, you seem to be pretty aware, is there quite a number, I should ask Will, is there quite a number of people that do these tests? I could find out, I was just curious if,
We were
because
up,
I agree with you, it should save, the,
we were up to about 10 a day, twice a day at Hutch.
really?
And there's probably an equal number that are at the sheriff's department.
Thank you.
So they would typically test 12 hours apart, so at 7 in the morning and 7 at night, or 8 in the morning, 8 at night.
And the biggest deal was that it wasn't all at the same time. They were spread out, so you were coming
Yeah.
in different times. All right. Public Works, John?
Item A, consider hiring Erickson Engineering out of Eden Prairie to do engineering services for our project SAP 43599-044. This is the Nakoma Township Bridge that was recently deficient, and Nakoma Township has directed us to go ahead and get that replaced. Cost from Erickson is not to exceed $114,158. It's based on hourly rates. We had another quote from Stonebrick Engineering out of Burnsville, and that price was $124,299 for the similar work. Project is funded with town, or expected to be funded with town bridge money and Tacoma Township funds, so no county funds. Pretty typical agreement we've always done when we replace township bridges.
And everybody's on board, right?
Correct.
All right, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
John, is this project bridge going to be built this year, or is that in a
No, it's
future year?
just getting the design going. Hopefully, if we can get town bridge funds, it'll be most likely next year.
Okay.
There's typically not enough town bridge of our own, since we don't have many deficient township bridges, but there's a special pot that they have where we can access that typically.
Okay.
So most likely 2021.
And this is a bridge on the Crow River, is that correct? or-
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item B, we'd like to hire Aztec Corporation out of St. Cloud to do a scrub seal on County Road 63 and a portion of County Road 86. It's northeast of Silver Lake, 86. Estimated cost for that is $23,648.05 based on the unit prices they gave us. Aztec was awarded our seal coat contract this year, and that work will be getting going here hopefully next couple weeks is what we've heard last. The scrub seal is a little bit heavier type of seal coat. As you remember, County Road 63 is one of those we were potentially looking at reclamation and cement stabilization on. And we backed off from that a little bit. So we'd like to try the scrub seal on that to hold it over. And hopefully we can have good luck with that. Same with County Road 86 or the Sherman Station area, if you remember.
okay.
We looked at that with Commissioner Wright and Szymanski that one day, so that will be a portion of that. So hopefully that can help kind of prolong that too. Otherwise, that pavement's pretty tired. And if we want to maintain it, that's kind of try this route.
So there'll be substantial patching work going on prior to the scrub seal being applied
Yeah,
there?
we've done some patching. We'll be doing patching on 63 and a little bit on 86, yeah.
Okay,
It'll
all right.
just be on 86, it'll be basically from the loose line north up to 5.
Okay.
Shorter stretch.
Thank you.
All right, any questions for John on that?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright, any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, item C, we'd like to consider approval of a quote from William Mueller and Sons out of Hamburg for the removal of a portion of County Road 72. That's the old Diamond Avenue, also known as. We'd like to remove the road at the TCW Railroad Crossing. The quote from them for that work was $21,915. That's based on a price per square yard for that. Per previous agreements with MnDOT and TCW, in conjunction with the Morningside project, we were going to reduce another railroad crossing, Diamond Avenue. So we've had previous agreements with MnDOT and TCW to do that. And now that that work's come along a little bit, William Mueller is going to be doing the work for TCW to expand their line out, kind of in conjunction with that project. So it makes sense to have William Mueller do that removal work in that area. We were surprised. It's a pretty good price to do that work, I think. So sounds like they'd like to get at that late summer, fall, from what we're hearing, if this is approved.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
John, just a question. I'm looking at the aerial photograph here. Are they just removing the bituminous surface of the road, or are they grading it flat to field level? Or?
There'll be some of the road core left, but for the most part, the bituminous will all be gone in those areas, taking it down a little bit, mainly making it so there's not a prominent looking turnaround where people think they can still use that road there. We are going to leave a little portion of the tracks, a short one for landowner access. That was an agreement the railroad had to do with them for like field entrance access,
Sure.
but we want to make sure that's all obliterated and barricades are up so the public doesn't.
All right. Will there be permanent barricades put across the terminations?
Yeah,
then?
we plan to install permanent barricades.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John. Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kruger, any discussion?
Yeah, just a little bit more. I did look through it. John covered it well. I mean, when I got the email, I looked through the bids. It looked, in today's day and age, it looked pretty cheap, actually. So I looked through it, and then through the history, I found out they're already working there. And I appreciated due to our shortage of workers or help, I think the bid's real good. So I line itemed it, and I don't know where we'd find anything any better.
Very good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, last item D, we'd like to hire Meeker Wash Sand and Gravel out of Darwin to apply gravel to County Road 60, about 9.3 miles on that road. And then County Road 70, actually it's County Road 71, 2 miles from Cassav 5 to the North County line. Their price for that is basically $10.44 a yard. That's spread, they spread the gravel. And then we will have a motor grader there and place it and so forth, compact it. Estimated cost for that's $50,000. Their cost for that, when you pencil out our haul costs and everything, their material price is $4.44 a ton or something. So it's almost cheaper to do that. So I think down the road too, we'll look at hiring them to do some of that work. If we get caught up with other bituminous patching and so forth, it's a really good price for them to haul that gravel.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ron.
John, is this 9.3 miles continuous gravel, or is it just spot filling?
No, that's the whole segment. Basically County Road 12 over to piece of 5 or northeast of Hutch.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds like a
Yeah,
great deal.
we try to gravel about 25 miles a year, every 4 years. And that's the goal. If we look down the road too, if we look at these guys, we could potentially get graveling earlier too, I think.
I should know this, but
Ideal.
I'm sorry. I should know this. Have we used them before to do this?
We haven't.
Okay.
We've hired them to haul sand in the past for snow and ice at hats and stuff, but we bought material out of their place in the past.
Right,
but
I get that, but never to do.
never to apply it yet, right?
Okay.
Our townships do use them.
Yeah, townships use them quite a bit.
And maybe that's where I'm catching, maybe that's where I'm
Yeah,
remembering
you probably
it.
see a lot of their trucks hauling for townships.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess it's part mine and part yours, so I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let us know how that goes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Little update on County Road 11, they're looking at pouring the deck tomorrow, bridge deck, so that's moving along.
John, or Mr. Chair, John, before you go, is Dunning moving in this week or on
27th is my understanding. Monday.
27th?
Yeah.
Because there's a number of people calling, and we're getting worried about nice calls, actually, but we're wondering if we make sure we're going to get done this year, you know.
I'm sure, yeah. No, from what I'm hearing, unless they're
Okay.
blowing smoke. it's
That's what
supposed
I've
to
been
get
saying,
done.
the same thing, so
Yeah.
whatever you can do is appreciated.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Ron has
John-
one more thing, John.
John, County Road 11 Bridge, you said they're pouring the deck. How long before that's opened again? Will they give it 30 days or?
Yeah, I don't remember the cure period exactly, but it's a few weeks for cure, and then they were thinking by the end of August. They got another project now in Renville they're working on, so they've been back and forth with staff. I've been telling people September, early September.
Okay.
I think
All right.
we'll just have to watch it.
Okay, thanks, John.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. We are 4 minutes early for our public hearing. Mike, what do you think?
I think you ought to wait until 9:30, because there may be folks that are on Zoom as well.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on. Connie, do you want to come up and take a few of your items?
Okay, so, good morning. Item
Good morning.
A is to consider the approval of the Deputy Registrar Appointment Agreement. The new Deputy Registrar Appointment Agreements were mailed by the Minnesota Department of Public Safety to all Deputy Registrar offices and are due to be returned by July 31st of this year. The terms of the agreement are the same for all Deputy Registrar offices. The intent with the new agreement is to have a standard agreement for all, to reflect changes in state government practices and to prepare for the November 2020 launch of the MnDrive system. The agreement includes new themes of technology, training, customer service expectations, and policies. The Deputy Registrar appointment still operates within the guidelines of Minnesota statutes, Section 168.33, and in accordance with Minnesota Rules, Chapter 7406.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
life wouldn't be complete without me asking a question. Connie, does the reimbursement rate change in this contract?
No,
Your-
they
your
haven't
fee-
changed any of the fees.
the
Those
fee that
actually,
you
I believe,
acquire.
have to go through legislature.
Pardon?
I believe those go through legislature.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's keep going, Connie.
Stay for B.
Yeah.
So item B is to consider adopting Resolution 20CB-30 to approve the CARES Act grant application in the amount of $26,596.10 for McLeod County and its municipalities, and authorize Connie M. Kurtzweg, Auditor Treasurer, to execute the grant agreement. The grant requires a 20% match, would amount to $5,319.22, with funds from the election budget. The Office of the Minnesota Secretary of State is currently accepting grant applications from counties for grants pursuant to Laws 2020, Chapter 77, Section 4, and the Federal CARES Act. A work group determined and the Office of the Secretary of State adopted the allocation of funds to each county pursuant to a formula set forth in the agreement. The work group focused on allocation with these goals in mind, getting funds to counties, cities, and townships directly to help with costs, minimizing the complexity of the disbursement and reimbursement process, sending out funds with direction on how to use and how to report back on use, and avoid a reimbursement process, and ensure that the state, counties, and cities and towns benefit equitably. So we were tasked with working with our municipalities on this grant agreement, which I am doing for these funds.
Okay. All right, any questions or,
Mr. Chair.
yes?
Connie, the total sum of the funds that's paid to the county, but then you share that with the municipalities and the townships, is that how that goes, or?
Yes, that's exactly how it
Okay.
goes.
So it's about half of it stays with the county and half of it goes out to the cities and townships?
Depending upon, right, the needs. So the county and the state are supplying, we are supplying plexiglass shields to them, masks, gloves, hand sanitizer, disinfectant spray, paper towels, and then wash stations, and perhaps pens now, some are requesting. So
Okay.
we're working with
Pens.
them to determine if they need more things or not,
When you say pens, you mean like every voter gets a pen when he goes in to vote, or?
perhaps,
Okay,
depending upon what that precinct feels their need is.
sure. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve.
Very good. Motion by Commissioner Szymanski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kruger. Sheila, anything to add to this stuff?
No, as Connie noted at our workshop at the fairgrounds, this is separate from the other coronavirus relief fund dollars, so
All right,
she's handling this part, and the townships and the cities are aware of it. We've discussed it with the ones who had follow-up questions, and she also gave them a short update there.
very good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right,
Thank you.
back to the public hearing. Item 7, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Mike?
I have prepared for your consideration a proposed findings in order regarding the restoration of the ditch records on County Ditch 63. The point that is at variance with what was discussed at the public hearing, there was a request that an additional 50 feet be added to take the ditch under the county road. Lisa Odens from Houston Engineering specifically looked at that issue and looked through the historical documentation. There was no evidence that supported that addition. So I have drafted the proposed findings excluding that 50 feet. Specifically, she had written in an email to Ryan, we find convincing evidence that Branch 1 did not cross York Road. With that information we have, we cannot provide any engineering justification for extending Branch 1 through York Road. And we have to have a basis for restoring the ditch records, and it has to be based upon engineering data. So that's how I have prepared it. So the ditch records are going to be the original report with addendum 1 that was previously submitted, according to this proposal.
So we need a motion to accept the findings, is that correct?
And execute them as an order, yes.
Anything, Paul?
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Wright. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kruger.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
We might want to inquire if there's any public input. I don't see anybody in the audience, but is there anybody on Zoom?
I don't think we're,
Okay.
all right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Doug?
are we in discussion? I'm sorry.
We are.
Okay, I'm going to be honest, I'm going by the reports and the information that was provided to me, and Mr. Young covered it. I mean, so that's where I'm basing, that's what we pay our engineers for, and that's all we can do right now as far as I can see. So, Commissioner Wright, I don't know if you have any comments on that. But.
Yeah, I think at our meeting we had with landowners, there was indicated to be an attempt to see if that 50-foot section could be included, and we have to rely on the research and data that's out there to make a fair judgment. It looks like it didn't make it in, and that's fine. There will be a lot of action on 63 or steps to take throughout the next year as we look at being able to finally get a clean out done on that, replacing a lot of culverts that are that have been installed, perhaps not at the proper elevation or have shifted just because of frost changes. So we'll be seeing a lot of ditch 63 as time goes on.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mike, anything else?
No.
All right, motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Back to the regular agenda. Mike?
I have provided to you in your packet a proposal regarding a stipulation of findings of fact and conclusions of law in order for judgment and judgment. This has been negotiated between me on your behalf, FW Cobbs, and Formafeed. What had happened here is that in 2006 or thereabouts, a prior owner in record conveyed a parcel of property, and our auditor's office, made an error in which parcel it was and who the owner was. So for a period of time from '06 until the present, Formafeed has been paying the taxes on a parcel that was owned by F.W. Cobb's predecessor in title. In 2017, F.W. Cobbs bought this parcel of property from the predecessor in title, and they realized that they were not paying taxes on it, and they commenced this action, served the lawsuit upon the county and upon Formafeed. You will note that Formafeed is receiving some money from F.W. Cobbs, and that is to take care of some of the taxes that Formafeed paid that they shouldn't have paid, and the benefit that F.W. Cobbs got by not paying those taxes. They did inquire as to whether the county would be willing or able to pay some of those dollars, and I indicated to them that the only way that the county could do that is through an order from the tax court, and there would have had to have been a tax appeal. And we just don't have a pot of money sitting around to give money to people for mistakes that have been made. Is this the only one out there? I hope so, but it wouldn't surprise me if another one doesn't creep up. This is the first one that I've seen like this in 30 plus years. So I guess that's the best that I can explain it. It was our mistake, and inadvertently Formafeed was paying for somebody else's property taxes.
So if I'm reading this correctly, you'd like us to approve this order?
Yes, I would, and all of the parties have agreed to it.
Okay.
The only transfer of funds that there will be is the $4,000 that Cobbs is going to pay Formafeed.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Hearing that, Mr. Young, this should end, at least this case should be ended if all the parties are in agreement and everything. This should be the end of this.
I sure hope so.
Very good.
And I think so.
I would move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Kruger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
And by the way, I did have the recorder's office review this to make sure that it fit in with what their records were, and it did, and it does.
Very good. All right. On to county administration, review of our calendars. Rich, go ahead.
Okay, since our last meeting, we had our workshop after the meeting. Then the following day, we had the CARES workshop where our administration did a very fine job of describing to townships and cities in the county what is available and how it could work. Had some interviews with our possible HHS director, working through those. Sat in on the 212 Southwest Corridor meeting in the morning, and had a safety committee meeting. Also sat in on a compliance committee meeting for Prime West. Had several personnel committee emails and discussions regarding personnel in the county and possible positions, and a number of phone conversations leading up to today. Thank you.
Okay, in our workshop with cities and townships that evening, we had a meeting, several members of the county staff, including Commissioner Doug Kruger, Attorney Mike Young, Ryan Freitag with SWCD, Houston Engineering, and also High Island Watershed. We attended a meeting held by Gavin Law Firm with landowners around the High Island area that are looking to possibly, by petition, put together a new county ditch system in replacement of their private ditch agreement that they currently have. Our position with being there is not to sway them one way or the other, but to just help with information in the process so that it's clear what their steps need to be, and what the landowners choose to do is completely up to them. And we'll see if they come forward with a petition at some point in time. But it was good discussion. It seemed to be the way to have a meeting, is to be able to get that information out there to landowners and answer questions. We were able to hold a meeting with all of the distancing guidelines, and I thought it went well. And again, it's up to them what they want to do. I also had attended a meeting at the new government center on some construction options, and a feedlot meeting.
The workshops were covered, so I won't rehash that. Rich brought up the personnel issues that we've been dealing with, but I want to point out that we've been really, and to Hannah's credit and Sheila's credit, we've really been dialing in on those to make sure that those positions need to be replaced, and if they do need to be replaced, they get looked at, and how they fit into the county system as we move forward. So I appreciate that, and we've been looking at those very, very closely, each and every one of them. So thank you for that, and let's keep doing that. I finally got a tour of the government center, and that was on purpose, because it seems like every time a commissioner walks in there, we lose $1,000. So but I was happy that I got to go in there, and the progress is nice, and it's coming along, and I appreciate all the effort that's going in there, and it seems like it's right on schedule, and everything's going well. Trailblazer meeting, which was productive. The rides are down because of everything that's going on, but we're working with the state regarding the funding, and ironically enough, expanding service, even though the rides are down. So more to follow with that. Ron?
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last board meeting, we had the workshop on the same day as the previous meeting, and then on the 8th, we had the CARES funding workshop over at the fairgrounds. On the 9th and 10th, I sat with the committee that interviewed Health and Human Services Director candidates. A very impressive group of candidates were brought forward. On the 13th, we had Meeker McLeod Sibley Community Health Board Finance Committee meeting, and just talking about how community health can aid in the COVID response to our communities, and so we've given our director some guidance on that topic. On the 16th, we had McLeod Treatment Program. Previously, a McLeod Treatment Program serviced adolescent boys and girls. As of July 1st, we are now a girls-only program at McLeod Treatment Program, and are in the process of selling one of the properties, McLeod Treatment Program. The 16th in the evening, we had a Pioneer Land Library Board meeting, and the libraries across Pioneer Land are open for curbside service. They're fully staffed and ready to help patrons. So if you need the library facilities, come come to our local libraries. They're ready for you. So that is it, Mr. Chair.
Doug?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pretty much everything was covered by the previous commissioners. I do want to comment a little on two transportation meetings I had in the last 2 weeks. One of them, Commissioner Rich Pullmeyer commented on, but we sat in on a webinar with Pete Starber, our administrator. Sheila Murphy sat with me a while on that one, Starber and Dean Erdahl, covering some of our funding for roads, both statewide and specifically for us 212. And also, I'm going to tie the two together. I had another one, a Transportation Alliance meeting that's based mainly on 212. And we were doing a lot of talking. There's a lot of agreement and how the fundings, if we can get them, how we would move forward. But with the COVID, with everything going on right now, everything is just dead. I mean, we do a lot of work, but it's kind of dead in the water. Just you got to stay on top of it, but it's not really going on anywhere until we find out where the funding's going to come from. And then I also attended on the 9th a drainage work group. And again, for those that don't know what a drainage work group is, it's a kind of an advisory team that goes through a ditch law and advises the legislature on additions or changes. This week, I appreciated Connie Kurtzwig sitting in and Ryan Freitag sitting in on these meetings. Connie sat in on some bonding comments or discussions that we had at the drainage work group. There's attorneys there and different people through the states just to give us an idea on how we can bond and the different regulations that are in bonding. And then Ryan and I sat in and we commented on we have so much sloughing, and obviously the FEMA money isn't there to do the repairs, and if we do the repairs, we won't get the FEMA money. So the ditches are sitting there with the sloughs in the bottom of the ditch. And I had Ryan help, and we pushed hard on trying to figure out why we can't use the FEMA money, when and if we ever get it, to actually change the 1-to-1 slope to a 2-to-1 slope, and use that same funding, but it takes more time because long story short, it's just foolish to put it back to a 1-to-1 slope and see it back in the bottom of the ditch in a year. But those are the kind of discussions, and I did appreciate our staff sitting along with it. And then on the 16th, Commissioner Nagel commented on Trailblazer. There are two things there. There is a building expansion going on in Buffalo that's pretty much funded by Wright County. We're paying on it. The Trailblazer pays on it, but they're the ones handling the funding there. And then the expansion, there's some other counties that are in a little bit of trouble with their transportation, and they've been Trailblazer with the Minnesota DOT have been looking at how and if we could expand that service into these counties, and that's what that expansion is all about. So it brings us today. Thanks.
Sheila, anything to add?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, you can, if you'd like, take A and B for us.
Thank you. Item A, consider approval of collective bargaining agreement with Minnesota Public Employee Association, also known as MINP, Communication Officer and Correctional Officer Unit for December 22, 2019 through December 17, 2022.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement with MINP.
Motion by Commissioner Szymanski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B, notification of board workshop to be held following the board meeting on August 4, 2020 at the Glencoe City Center Senior Room, 1107 11th Street East, Glencoe, Minnesota. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, would you comment on the closed meeting, please?
Okay, and the agenda says it's pending litigation with Green Forest. That's not quite true because the litigation hasn't been started yet. It's our potential litigation against Green Forest. So we have not been served with any action, and this closed meeting will be for the county board to discuss and then take action with whether or not to bring an action against Green Forest for past amounts owed. It would require a vote of the board to close the meeting. These meetings are not tape recorded because they're attorney-client privilege, and that does not require any tape recording. The people that will be present at the closed meeting will be the 5 commissioners, myself, Sheila, and personnel from Solid Waste, including Mark Telecki and maybe Sarah Young.
Okay, so there may be action taken afterwards.
Yes, that's up to the board.
Right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mike, will Liz Danielson be attending as well?
Sorry?
Liz Danielson, will she be attending as well?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, because of the timing, I can do it again. Open forum or press relations? Karen, anything? Right.
I don't anticipate the closed meeting will last longer than 20, 30 minutes, and I anticipate that they would have a decision after that. If you want to leave and give myself or Sheila a call, we can update you as to what the board did.
Fair enough? All right. All right. Seeing no one for open forum, looking for a motion to close the meeting. So moved. Motion by Commissioner Wright, second by Commissioner Polmeyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're in closed session.